So we are continuing right where we left off last week in the workplace manual. And so last week we went over, we ended off in procedure 3, where we just want to do a quick little review. Procedure 3 was talking about the process of someone interviewing for a job position. I remember the last teacher ended up where how people put their best foot forward when they're in an interview, but it's when they start to relax is when most of the time they are evaluated to see, can this person stay on the job, where is this person best fit for the job, or different things like that. So we are continuing on in procedure 4 tonight. So we're on page 4, procedure 4. So it starts off by saying, have students turn to the section entitled Introduction, found on pages 7 through 8, and summarize key points. Ask volunteers to define character and personality. So when you're teaching a class, this is where you get to see if your students know about character and personality, the difference between character and personality as well. Choose a volunteer to read the sections entitled, What is Character and What is Personality, found on page 9. Ask class, what is the fundamental difference between character and personality? And this is a great discussion opener, especially when you're opening the class, to kind of get a feel for where your students are at. Character is the means by which we distinguish between right and wrong, and personality is the combination of our personal preferences and social skills. Tell students that the combination of personality and character makes each person unique and valuable individuals. Alright, so let's flip over to page 7, and we're going to read the introduction. So chapter 1, lesson content. Topic, wanted workers with positive character. For a business to remain successful, it must be built with a positive moral character as its foundation. So in other words, it must have a firm, stable foundation. I like to think of it when I hear a quote like this as everyone has like a dream house, something they want in their dream house, something that they want their dream house to look like. If you're starting from scratch, you pick the best spot for your house. You pick the best foundation, so, in years to come, your house will still be there. No matter a storm comes through, your house will still stand against whatever comes by. And it's just the same way as building a firm foundation when it comes to building an individual's character. It is much the same way. You want to have a foundation that, yes, even though an individual changes, the foundation remains true and strong. So let's go down to the introduction. In today's world, in almost every nation, technology, industry, and machinery are highly advancing. However, there have been little advancements made to man's character. And those two sentences right there are very impactful because it's almost like a sad fact of life. We've advanced so much technology-wise, but so little when it comes to character education. And anyone could look around and see how much we need character education, whether it's in the home or the workplace. Instead of peace, nations are being provoked to anger. The same holds true in the workplace and business establishment. We see daily on the news where, co-workers fight, this company went down because of the lack of character education. So there are countless of news reports concerning corporate and business scandals, improper use of company resources, theft, kickbacks, insider trading, embezzlement, sexual harassment, discrimination, unethical decision-making, and improper codes of conduct. So we have a couple of big words in there, and I love studying about businesses. I love studying about it, but I don't know much about it. So I decided to go into a little bit about what brings a business down. So we have a little bit of examples here. So the first one that I looked up was kickback. So a kickback is a payment made to someone who has facilitated or made easier a transaction or appointment, especially illicitly, meaning it's forbidden by the rules or laws or it's illegal. So that is the definition of a kickback. So it's basically, the definition of a kickback is a slang for a bribe or incentive to someone who helped you make money. An example of that would be when you bid on a job, because sometimes there are biddings in jobs, and the job is awarded to you, and you have to pay someone $1,000 because you received the award. This $1,000 payment is an example of a kickback. So there are various types of kickbacks as well. So there's bonus payments, golf outings. Sometimes they do have incentive programs in companies, but sometimes they do come in a form of a kickback. So businesses do have to be careful for that. Lavish dinners, gifts, tickets to any type of sort of event can come in a form of a kickback. So the second one I looked up was embezzlement. So embezzlement is theft of funds placed in one's trust or belongings to one's employer. So embezzlement is when an employee or someone in a trusted position steals from the business. Embezzlement can come in many different forms. And when you hear the word embezzlement, we hear this a lot on the news sometimes. Everyone thinks it's this huge, major thing. It always involves money. But it doesn't actually. So examples of embezzlement, and some of these actually really surprised me because they would seem small, but when you think about it later on, it does affect the business. So examples of this would be overbilling customers, theft of customer card data, using a company credit card for personal use, voiding transactions at the register. So that means an associate at the cash register voids transactions and they pocket the cash. This is a common way of skimming money from a retail small business. Most people do. Pocketing cash from fundraisers. Stealing office supplies. And I really wanted to highlight on that one because, it's office supplies. A paper clip here, some staples there, some paper here. But at the end of the day, in a business, everything adds up. And then another one was falsifying overtime. So all of these at the end of the day does affect a business, whether that is the character of a business or physically in a business where it comes to the profit that the business is bringing in. They're not really bringing in as much as they're supposed to. So everyone is probably wondering, how does the PSCEP solution come into play with this? But the PSCEP solution comes into play with this because it teaches the employer and the employees of why each of these things are wrong, and in the long run, how it affects the business. So as it says here, continuing on page 7, it says, all of these scandals and corrupt business practices result in higher prices for product and services, decrease in worker productivity, decrease in consumer confidence, increase in internal conflicts within a company, loss of employee pensions, and in some cases are causing companies to default on financial obligations, resulting in bankruptcy. So this is a perfect example of how a ripple effect in a business can affect the business itself, in employees, the people who they service, and that ripples outward as well. So what each person needs right now and what is lacking is a perfect guide for responsible behavior. What we all need in the workplace, first and foremost, is to know how to have positive interactions. But did you know that this is dependent upon character? And I want you to highlight that part there. Did you know that this is dependent on character? Because we see exactly how important character is. And this is a great point where you can stress to your students and also bring in other examples of how character plays an important part in the business. So turning over to page 8, it continues on. How often can you recall using the following statements to describe people you know or have recently met. He seems okay, but I wouldn't trust him. I've only spoken to her once, but she seems nice. Simple statements like this describe a very complex combination of behavior known as character and personality. So you can see here, character and personality are very much intertwined. You can't have one without having the other. Coupled with physical features, character and personality help make each person a unique individual. It makes them who they are. So this first sentence here tells the goal of the chapter, that why we are learning or what we are learning in this first chapter here. In this first chapter of the PSCEP Solution Character Education Program, Moral Excellence in the Workplace, you will learn what character is and the importance of developing a positive character in the workplace. You will see that character plays an important role in how we conduct ourselves and interact with others in the workplace and within society as a whole, because all people deserve to be treated fairly and with respect. And we could link that back to our respect unit on page 11. I know this is one thing about the PSCEP solution, because in order for someone to see the importance of something, and I always say this in my class, you have to teach them the importance of why to value it. So you teach them what it is, you teach them why you have to value it, and you teach them how it would work in their lives. So because all people deserve to be treated fairly with respect, no matter their cultural, social, or religious background. You will explore how character and personality are developed and why it is essential that you learn to distinguish between the two. Alright, so the workplace manual might be the first time they are hearing about character. So this is when you are teaching your students. We here, learning the PSCEP solution, have heard for the past couple years that we've been learning the PSCEP solution. So this teaches them what it is, how to develop it, and how to establish it firmly in their own lives, and how to identify it in other people as well. Although there is a clear distinction between character and personality, even though your class might not realize that, there is a clear distinction between character and personality. The two can and is often easily confused. And often personality is used to describe character, and also personality is heavily, more in society today, more dependent upon than character. Oh, she's a funny person, I'll hang out with her. Oh, she seems nice, I'll hang out with her. But when teaching this, you get to teach your students why it's important to look at the character too. Yes, personality is important, but character holds ground as well too. They can make assumptions about each other that are inaccurate and sometimes detrimental. And we know with making assumptions, it's never a great thing. We can't assume something about others when we don't know what their character is. Just as how the PSCEP solution has taught us, don't jump to conclusion, gather all the facts. It's the same thing with individuals. Understanding the importance of a positive character, knowing how to obtain it, and then being able to tell the difference between the two. So you taught them what it is, you taught them how to attain it in their life, and you taught them why they should have it in their life as well. Are able to tell the difference between character and personality are steps toward achieving true success in developing a positive moral character. This will contribute to a more peaceful and harmonious work environment, boost employee morale, enhance communication, improve worker productivity and employee conduct, increase the ability to solve problems without conflicts, and decrease theft and misuse of company resources. And I don't know about you, but if I just read that paragraph there, if I have a company, That right there would have sold me on the PSO solution with the amount of benefits, and all the benefits are not even all listed here, on how this can help in the workplace. And it's also important too, without proper education, people don't take into consideration, for example, the rights of ownership. Most people think, oh, little children, that's where you teach them. Little children, you teach them the rights of ownership. But as adults, we need to learn the rights of ownership too, especially when it comes to character. For example, taking food from another employee. Most of the time they have cafeteria or an employee fridge. When people take food from another employee, that is considered stealing. That is taking the rights of ownership from another person, thus disrespecting them. It results in multiple different things. A simple thing that most people think about, oh, it's just an apple. But was it your apple? It was someone else's apple. Or taking company belongings home for personal use. And that is a big one in society today. A lot of people don't think it's a big thing. I mean, especially if you're working on a project for the office. But if you don't ask, it goes right back to the rights of ownership. If an individual doesn't ask, it's still considered stealing. And it's these little things that the PSCEP solution comes in and fixes. And it's not even a little thing, because it can amount to a big thing. So this chapter teaches the foundation to building a positive moral character in the workplace and in the lives of individuals. All right, so let us turn over to page 9. And so we're getting into the chapter, what is character and what is personality? So character is the combination of beliefs, of morals and beliefs that dictate how we treat others, our environment, and ourselves. And when teaching this, especially for the first time, you might get asked what is meant by morals and beliefs. And you can always reference back to what we've been taught in the very first start of the PSCEP solution from character page 8. And it's the first line, and it says, regardless of culture, religion, or environment, there are moral values that all people share. Because when people hear morals and beliefs, they automatically think religion. But we also have to remember that the PSCEP solution is a non-religious secular program. So it doesn't bring in religion because it can be used for anyone, no matter who you are or where you come from. So that is important when it comes to morals and beliefs, to emphasize that to your students. But it does play an integral part in what character is. It is based on which our every thought, action, and decisions are derived. Furthermore, it is the means by which we distinguish between right and wrong. For example, an honest person is one who can be trusted not to steal. Every facet of society will benefit from people who are honest, and that is definitely true. If a person is honest in a situation, they are not the only ones to benefit, but everyone who is around them. Therefore, character defines a universal code of conduct necessary for all people. And remember, we went over the words universal code of conduct when we just started the book here. Let's see, go back. It was on page G, where it talked about, here at the bottom on column 1, it says, we've established a universal code of conduct that is essential to the development of peace for everyone in all walks of life and for all ages. And remember, the universal code of conduct is the laws of peace. Moral principles that can be globally accepted, saying please, thank you, being kind to the person, even though you might not know them, still being kind to them. So at the side here it says, character is our foundation, like a solid brick house. All right, and so I want you to continue to reference this. Every time you hear the word character, and you can paint this to your students as well. Every time you hear the word character, Think of the foundation of a solid brick house. All right, so let's go down to personality. What is personality? Personality is the combination of personal preferences, qualities, attitudes, likes, and dislikes of an individual. So see here, just reading the definitions, you can see the difference between character and personality. Character is the combination of morals and beliefs that dictate how we treat others, environment, and ourselves, whereas personality is the combination of personal preferences, qualities, attitudes, likes, and dislikes of an individual. An example of this would be the type of hobbies you like, whether you like sports, dance, art, style of dress, fashion, type of music you like to listen to, various cuisines you prefer, as well as countless other qualities. All of these things make up your personality. While this is very important because it makes each person a unique individual, it is important, and you always want to stress this, on how important character is as well. All right, and just under the picture it says, just like paint and flowers make a house unique, so does personality make each person different from the next. And this is a perfect analogy. Character would be the foundation of the house, making it a firm foundation. Personality is how you decorate your room, or how you decorate your outside, what you have in your garden. That is what personality is. All right, and also a quick tip for teachers. Page 7 started procedure 4, because I remember we always mark these just for a little extra help. Page 7 starts procedure 4, and page 9 ends procedure 4. So at the end of that, you want to put end procedure 4, and then let's turn over back to page 4. And we'll get into procedure 5. So explain to students that moral values clearly distinguish character from personality. Summarize key points found on pages 10 to 11 under the heading Values and Character. Discuss moral values and the roles they play in the interaction of all people. Include that morals are, and this is the definition for morals, are principles or beliefs that govern the way people think and behave. Morals help us understand that despite our ethnic, age, religious, or gender differences, all people should be treated with respect and have a right to live in peace. A moral attitude towards others also includes the safety and respect of their belongings. And this is harped upon a lot in this book because in the workplace, it is very, very important. All right, so let's turn over to page 10. So this one begins procedure 5. So values and character. So now your students by now have learned the definition of character, the definition of personality, and now they're getting ready to learn what are values and moral values. And it will take some time for them to remember the difference between the two and also how to identify the two. But it also is important to keep reinforcing the definitions and bringing examples to make it easier for all students. So our values are the principles or qualities we consider to be important or worthwhile. So values are what we consider important or the desire of our hearts. So what we value education. We will try everything in our power to attain a proper education. Somebody wants a certain career, they will make sure that they can achieve that. So that is what a value is. They value different things, and this leads to other things like setting goals or keeping them in check to make sure their eye is on the goal. They are not deterred from simple things that come through in life. So our values are important because they help us grow and develop. They help us to create the future we want to experience. Values are important because they guide our beliefs, attitudes, and behavior. And that is important because we see how important values are and why we should have values. Values play a key role in the formation of our character and personality. Some values pertain to what we want to accomplish in life and what we consider beautiful. And remember, it is important to stress to your students that for each person to person, that will be different because each person is a unique individual. What one person might value, another might not think it's so important. There are also personal values such as hygiene and appearance, as well as music and art. What we value comes from several sources. And remember, we learned that back in the character unit on page 4 when we learned GFS. Remember, it's genetics, family values, influences, experiences, choices, and environment. And this is a nice place to bring this up too because you see what goes into forming values. It's not just one simple thing. It can be a complex thing that comes from a lot of things. So our first and most influential teachers were our parents and guardians. The things we value are largely in part due to how they influenced us. And I want you to add the word due to there. The things we value are largely in part due to how they influenced us because it adds to your values. It builds your values. Other people who played a significant role in our lives also influenced our values. So that's where we get the I from GFS, your influences. And we know how impactful influences are because we talked about this last class. As the role of the teacher, your role to your students is very influential. These include teachers, babysitters, friends, relatives, and employers. The sum of our values is called our value system. Our value system is the means by which we rank or prioritize the things that are important to us. So a value system is a set of principles or ideals that drive or guide an individual's behavior. So your personal value system gives you structure and purpose by helping you determine what is meaningful to you and what is important to you. And remember, per individual, these will change. And as an individual, we will read later on that these things change as well. What you might have valued when you were 12, you might not value now that you are an older individual in the workforce. You know what you want to accomplish. It helps you express who you are and what you stand for. So we see just how important and meaningful values are in forming a positive character. All right, so to continue the rest of this, I want to turn it over to the next teacher who's going to go more into values as well. So I'll turn it over to the next teacher.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Peaceful Solution Character Education class. Now, I want to go back on page 10, and I want to start with paragraph 2. It says, the sum of our values are called our value system. Now, as you're training to be teachers, you want to remember that everybody has a different set of values, and you have to make those values jive. But one of the things as you're teaching these different businesses, you want to teach them how to make that value important within that business. Because what might be important to one person might not be important to the next person along the line. But we know the bottom line is, for all businesses, it's making that profit. It's making sure the business functions properly. And a lot of people that are working aren't relating that to it because that's not their priority, that's not their top value, as we'll see as we continue on. Our value system is the means by which we rank or prioritize the things that are important to us. Now, as we're going through this, I want you to stop and think, what's important to you? Where are your priorities as far as values go? What is important in your life? It's going to be different than the person that's sitting next to you. How we prioritize our values is the basis by which many of our decisions are made. If you're scheduled to work, this is one example in the industry that I was working in. If you're scheduled normally to work, say, 8 to 4, but there's a big meeting coming in, they might ask you to come in at 6 to prepare for it and stay to 4, because they're not concerned with what you want. The concern is what's going to serve the business the best. So we have to create within each person that works within the establishment the value of that business that they're working for. If they don't see the value in the business, they're not going to give it everything that they can. And that's something that we, as teachers, have to get them to realize, to take a hold of. Just as no two people are exactly alike, no two people have the same system of values. Even members of the same family might have different values. For example, you might like staying home and reading while your spouse enjoys sports. Or you might love to cook, but your sister can't boil water or butter bread. These are the things that we want to keep in mind, because you're going to have a very, very diverse group of people, and each one has that different value system. Continuing on. The most important thing to remember about your values is that they can change. And those changes can come based on your education, your experiences, influences, and environment. One great example is if you have a group of people that are working together and they're working hard and they're trying to get the job done, while you have another couple people over here that will wander in whenever, or that will sit and talk amongst themselves and not try to produce the work that needs to be, what you're likely to see is resentment building up within those that are working, or their values are going to change. Well, if they don't have to work and they're still getting paid the same, well, shoot, I'm going to join that group. But then what occurs then is the load gets heavier for those, because this person has been swayed to move over. I don't know if that's making sense, but that's how a value can change within people, because you are influenced by those around you. And one of the things as you're teaching the class that you want to do is you want to encourage those that you're teaching to instill in them the importance of what they're doing, and let them know how valuable they are to accomplishing the tasks within that business. You have to create that value within those that you're teaching so that they can take it and extend it to the business that they are with, if that makes sense. Therefore, periodically, evaluate the things that are important to you. Ask yourself if what you value will support your positive growth and character development. Your values help you to make choices that determine how you live your life and how you treat others. Now, the ones that are over here doing their own thing and not doing the project, well, how are they treating those that are working hard? For one thing, they know that they're going to do it because these people value the job that they have, whereas these people value the paycheck that they're getting. And that causes resentment within the workplace. I've reached that point sometimes in my own life, and when you come out and you're loaded down and you can't even breathe, you're doing really well if you can even take a break, and you come out and you watch people watching videos on their phones or texting to one another. These are things that are determined within value. The person that's doing the job values the job, but the one that's texting, the one that's watching videos or doing whatever, the one that wanders in 2, 3 hours later than they have, or takes an extra long lunch break, they value the paycheck. There's a difference. You have to value the work so that you give them the best that you can give them. And that's what you have to teach the managers of the companies that you're teaching, so that they can help those that are under them to understand that value system. Now, one of the things, and we're going to look at this box that's next on the page, is ranking your values. I want to encourage each of you, when you go home, to actually do this. Don't give it a whole lot of thought, because the first thing that's important to you is going to be what pops up. Fill it out. But when you see someone's values, like the person that went over to this group, starting to change within the business that you're working with, have them take the value thing again. Then you can compare the difference. They can compare the difference. They can see how that change is taking place in them. They're seeing how the influence of other people are having on them. This is something that we want to keep in mind, because a lot of people don't realize that they're changing. And if you can help those team members or those employees to realize that they are changing, then it will help bring them back to the person that they once were when they first started working. Because once a person gets comfortable in their job, they start taking liberties. And that's something that you want to keep in mind. So remember, values can change over time, and you might want to note that, because this is what you're going to be teaching. Values can change over time. So it's important to continually reevaluate yourself, managers to reevaluate themselves, and team members to reevaluate themselves. Now, looking in the box, it says ranking your values. The directions are: read the following list of values and rank them from 1 to 12, where 1 is the most important and 12 is the least. And the areas that are covered are career and work, sports, hobbies, marriage, education, money, family, vacation, religion, friends, health, and positive character. Most people aren't going to check positive character, because they don't even stop to consider what that is, because most people in the world haven't been taught what character truly is. At the place that I worked at, they said that there was 3 things that should come first. They said the first thing that should come in our lives was our faith. They said above even your job, your faith should come first. This is what the owner of our company said. He said the second thing that should be in your life is your family. That's what he was telling us when he first bought the place of establishment. And he said, and then the third thing in your life was work. That's the way he believed the value system of those that work for him should be. The thing is, if that business had a sellout night, I worked at a hotel, so if that business was sold out because there's a huge convention in town, and you have a family event going, but you're the only one that knows how to do that job, well, now family has to take a back step, because the focus is to make sure that business functions the way it should. Because one bad report in the business world, one bad review, is like taking it and blasting it over the entire internet. Because that's what goes on nowadays. If somebody doesn't like what you tell them, it's over the internet, on every social media site there is, of how horrible that establishment is. As you're teaching these business establishments, we have to teach them that the guests are valuable, or the customer service is something that we have to take a focus on. And we have to be able to let them understand that there's not the word no doesn't exist when you're trying to help people. The word is, let me see what I can do for you. I'm not sure how to do that, but I will go to somebody that does. Can you hold on just 1 minute so I can try to get an answer for you? Because you're not going to know every answer, and that's something that managers have to make sure that their people know. You can tell somebody they're empowered, but if you don't let them know the right answers, that empowerment isn't going to do anything. So I just wanted to share that with you because there's values. But in all businesses, the bottom line is the bottom line. What's going to bring that profit in? And you want to train managers and employees to be able to do the best that they can for that business, but still know that their families are important and the things in their life are important as well. It helps people to see what values are. When we make them realize or help them to understand what values are, it helps them to see better what's important to them. They might not understand what's important. They might think, well, I need a paycheck so I can pay my bills and everything. But if you're not doing the job that's required of you, they're going to find somebody that will. And then you won't even have that paycheck coming in. So you want to be able to make yourself a benefit and do what's required of you. Encourage honesty as you're teaching this to the businesses. Help them to understand that honesty is to their benefit. And I'm talking about the team members and the employees. Don't base on what others might think of you. Don't worry about what others think of you while you're trying to teach it. Always have compassion, but don't base on what they think of you, because the minute you tell somebody this is not correct, what's the first thing that they're going to do? Their back's going to stiffen, their lips are going to get straight, and they're going to say, oh, okay. But they really didn't like what they just heard. So you keep trying to ease it in, but make the point and encourage them. If you don't encourage them, they're going to lose that hope. Remember, values can change over time, and you want to keep that in mind as you're teaching it. And remind that to the managers, because values do change, because everybody's life is complicated. Everybody's life has things going on, and we want to be able to help them to change with the flow. Whenever something was going on within my life, I'd go into the office of my boss and bring the other boss in, and I'd say, okay, this is what's going on in my life. So I might get emotional. I might not be totally focused. I just wanted you to know. When we can open up that communication, we can have empathy for those that we're working with, for those that we're trying to perform a duty for. And these are things, as you're teaching the class, you want to try to remember as you're teaching it, because it's going to help managers in what they're trying to do as well. On page 11, we're going to read the importance of moral values to character. Now, one of the things that you want to note at the very top of the page so that they remember and realize how moral values and principles are universal. What does that mean? It means that it's something that's generally accepted worldwide. And as we read on, it will become clearer. One of the key factors that distinguish character from personality is called moral values or principles. Moral values clearly separate what is right from what is wrong. And they are the foundation of character because they govern the way people think and behave. Now, I don't know how many of you will say it's okay that if your purse is sitting on the table because you got distracted, you set it down to go handle something, and you come back and $100 is missing out of your purse. Most people around the world won't find that acceptable. That's what's universal. It's a moral value or principle that is considered universal. It's something that most people will agree to. that you don't have the right to do whatever you want to do when it causes hurt or harm to someone else or it takes something of worth. Remember, we were covering the morals earlier with the first teacher. And for those of you that have gone through all the courses, reference character unit page 8, where it talked about morals and what do they have to do with my character. And it's divided into 3 categories, and I want you to remember these categories. It's behavior and attitude towards all what? Towards all life. And then you have behavior and attitude towards possessions and property. And then you have behavior and attitude towards what? The environment. Those are the basic moral attitudes, and this is something you can keep going back to because it's right and wrong. It's the basic moral attitudes that are within this book, and it will help you to help the others to understand it. In general, moral principles are considered universal because people from all over the world agree with and uphold them. For example, ownership is a moral value that is accepted universally. People all over the world regard their possessions as important and valuable. They protect and guard their belongings from harm and theft. When we respect the possessions of others by asking permission to touch, use, or borrow, we are making a moral or right choice. And that's what they're talking about when they talk about moral values and principles. Stealing, vandalizing, and destroying property are immoral and wrong choices. Even briefly using an object that belongs to someone else without asking first might lead to conflict. One of the things that you can help others to understand when you're teaching this class is if it's not yours, don't touch it without asking. And I'll share with you the reason why. You don't know who has handled something prior to that reaching for yourself. And at my work, there was something that had occurred. A young child, she was a year and a half, came in and she wasn't feeling well. She wasn't at daycare because she wasn't feeling well. And she had a water bottle. And she had been handling it, and then they left. And then another young child came behind her. And before you could even say anything, that other young child picked up that cup that the other child had. And then we found out the first child had foot, hand, and mouth disease. So the next child got it, and it spread to the next child and to the parent. That's why it's important to always ask before you touch something that's not yours. And if you can give them these life examples and you can give them these real examples, they can begin to connect it in their own lives. Okay, now everybody close your books. We're going to have a little quiz. Okay? Now, one of the things with the Peaceful Solution when you're teaching it, you want to make it interactive. And my note says, have everybody close the books. So everybody close your books and let's do a quick review, okay? What are the 3 basic categories of morality? Now we just covered it. So I'll give you the first part of the sentence. You all finish it together, okay? Behavior and attitude toward all life. Behavior and attitude towards possessions and property. Behavior and attitude toward the environment. That's right. Give yourselves a hand. Awesome. So we're going to continue on. You can open your books now. 3 basic categories of morality. And remember, when you're teaching it, this might be the first time they ever hear it. So you really want to break it down for your students. Number 1, behavior and attitude toward all life. Moral principles in regards to people's lives mean acknowledging and accepting that life is valuable and that all people, regardless of ethnicity, religion, or gender, have the right to live and work in safety and have the potential to contribute to society. Now you want to note out to the side, people desire to work somewhere. They do. Everybody desires to work. Children as young as 1 and 2 are asking to help, and they love it when you give them a project to do. People desire to work somewhere that is peaceful, not full of drama or a stressful situation. Not full of drama or a stressful situation. Now, why is this? Because you can be more productive when you're working in an environment where everyone's working together and everybody's sharing and everybody's trying to give their input and work together. It's called brainstorming. Where I used to work, we'd all sit around and we'd brainstorm of how to handle a situation the best. If everybody feels that they have worth, that they have value within the place that they work, then you're going to have more production from them. But as you're teaching the managers and the team members, you have to help them to learn how to do that, how to instill that in others. Number 2, behavior and attitude towards possessions and property. Everyone has the right to their own belongings without fear of it being stolen, vandalized, or destroyed. Now, to connect with your students, and you want to make this note out to the side also, to connect with your students, ask what rights this is speaking of when it comes to a person's possessions or property. What rights are being taught there? Now, remember, they haven't been taught this part probably, but I know you all have. It's the rights of ownership. And you can go on at this point and you can explain the importance of ownership and recognition of a person's own, what they own, and help them to understand that. Just because that pen is sitting right there on that person's desk, it doesn't mean it's yours to touch, because you really don't know what you might be touching, such as the example with the young children. The third one is behavior and attitude toward the environment. All people have a responsibility to care for our immediate environment and for the world around us. Now, one of the things that you can note is signs in Texas read, "Don't mess with Texas." It's encouraging people not to throw their trash out the window. There's also a sign that says littering is awful with the word UNL in front of it, so littering is unlawful. It's trying to give that message that you want to take care of the environment. We only have one planet. We only have one opportunity, and this is something that we can drive home. I don't know how many times when we used to go out into the parking lot to leave, and there was a dirty diaper laying in the parking lot, or somebody emptied their cigarettes out onto the parking lot and everything. It's not just people that live here, animals do and everything as well. So instill in them these basic morals, because it's something that's known worldwide and it's something that's universally accepted. Continuing on, having morals is an important way to define your character. Moral values set boundaries. Moral values set boundaries. Now you want to note out to the side, the boundary in a person's mind helps them weigh whether it is right or a wrong choice by the rules given in the workplace. The boundary in a person's mind helps them weigh whether it is a right or wrong choice by the rules given in the workplace. Now, if you're told that, let's take a restaurant for those that might have been waitresses in their life at one time. I was a hostess for waitresses, but one of the rules was if there are customers in the restaurant, you can't sit down and eat. And if you've been on an 8-hour shift and there's been a customer in the restaurant the entire time, you can't sit down and eat. You have to be attentive to the customer that's there. Because if they see you sitting down and eating and they want something, they're either going to feel guilty about raising their hand that they need more water or something, or they're going to feel guilty that they have to disturb your meal, or they're going to say you really don't care about their customer service. And most waitresses depend on the tips that they generate, so you have to give that service so that you make what you need to survive. But if you've got the waitresses that are sitting down instead of being attentive to their customers, you're going to see the customer base slowly disappear. And before long, the restaurant's barely getting by because it doesn't have the customers buying the food to make it possible. So that's a boundary that is set up according to the rules within a workplace. And you can't be inconsistent in the rules. And that's one of the things that you really want to teach the managers and people that you're teaching, that you can't be inconsistent when it comes to the rules. Moral values set boundaries that help the individual demonstrate appropriate behavior towards the self and others. In other words, when a person has moral values, he tries to distinguish between right and wrong and make choices that are more respectful and thoughtful for all life and the environment. This results in more peaceful relationships with others, because if you're not doing all the work and everybody's joining in, you're not going to get frustrated. If everybody's doing their part, there's not going to be that frustration. Everybody's going to have a bad day. Everybody's going to trip and have to go back in the house and change their clothes or something. But that's when, if I'm getting in the car and I know, okay, you've missed it by 10 minutes, that's when I'm picking up the phone and say, hey, I'm running 10 minutes late. I'll be there in a little while or something. It's that communication. Our character is a combination of moral values that we have been taught, as well as the values that include work ethics, education, hobbies, and so on. In addition to values, your interactions with others and their influences have also helped to mold and shape your character. So your interaction with others is actually molding and shaping your character. How many of you have ever experienced coming to work in a great mood only to have it go crashing down because of the environment? But when we create that positive environment, it really helps to mold and shape our day. Their influences help to mold and shape your character, making you the person that you are today. People desire to work somewhere that is peaceful, not full of drama or a stressful situation, as we said. We can help to turn that around within businesses and companies. Peaceful communication and interaction makes a more productive environment and a joyful place to work as well. And these are things that you can note within your book so that you're ready when you're teaching it. And we're going to end there, but we will pick up next week on Procedure 6. And I thank you all for your attention.